Good morning and welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning. If you're watching us live on Facebook, thank you for that. If you're checking us out elsewhere, we do upload these shows to www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. You can check them out there as well. We have audio and video versions for you to watch. Also, of course, Facebook does keep these shows on the page in perpetuity during the day. So please, you can check them out in either place. We appreciate you watching. Looking at traffic this morning, I-12 on a slowdown, looking at some accident, either an accident or some sort of minor delay at the 10-12 split. Not exactly sure what's going on there right now, but it is completely backed up. So it's moving slow this morning. It is moving, but moving slow. Backups all the way to O'Neill. So please keep that in mind if you haven't left yet this morning. It's causing some on-ramp delays. There is also an accident on I-12 eastbound in between the Walker and Walker and Satsuma exit. It's pretty much shut down there at this time. Heavy delays in that area. Recommend if you're heading eastbound to take 190 through to Livingston to get on the interstate. Good morning, Miss Margaret. Thanks for joining us. And good morning, Mr. Taylor. Thanks for joining us as well. 4-H Club Road, River Road, and 190. Heavy delays this morning caused by that backup on the I-12 westbound direction. So, of course, if you're going into Baton Rouge, that's going to be tough. 64 is still looking pretty clear heading into the central area. However, some heavy delays on Greenville Springs. Good morning, Mr. Thompson. Thanks for joining us. It's currently at 73 degrees. 82 degrees is your high today. 71 going to be your overnight low. The rain hasn't been quite as bad from hurricane/tropical storm Beta as we had expected. Good morning, Tony. Thanks for joining us. However, we are still expecting some more rain today, scattered showers throughout the day, so please keep that in mind. Always a good idea to pack that umbrella or a poncho. It's going to be on and off today, possibly going into tomorrow, but it looks like things are going to start breaking up. Might get some sun tomorrow, might warm up just a bit. I know a lot of people have said that it's cold outside. So we will see what happens going throughout the day, checking into that radar. We'll check in tomorrow. Before we get into the beginning of the show, do want to say for those who are here and who are curious, school is happening today. So get your kid out the door this morning. Get them to school. School is happening. We'll discuss more details of that in just a second. This morning, last night, Scotlandville High visited Denham Springs High football program. Sort of as an act of solidarity, wanted to express their concern. Good morning, Miss Cynthia. Thanks for joining us. Wanted to express their concern and the friendship that football brings. We know that in a couple of weeks they're going to be facing off against each other on the gridiron. But Coach Lester Ricard said that he brought his kids from Scotlandville over to show a little compassion, show that you can give back, even if you're going to compete against somebody, you can give back and show a little compassion. So you can check out some pictures from that event on our website, www.livingstonparishnews.com. Again, Scotlandville showed up at practice last night to kind of show their love and support for the Denham Springs High School football team. Congressman Graves is trying to spearhead some legislation to modernize permitting. Right now, I'm sure if you've paid any attention to any kind of large construction or infrastructure project really in the last 15 years, they're always marred by what the environmental study. It always takes a couple of years. It slows everything down. There's a lot of pieces to those puzzles every time that study's done. And Congressman Garrett Graves is saying, we have the technology to be able to modernize and streamline that process while still keeping the same scrutiny. One of the things he wants to allow is for the private contractor who wins the bid to be able to participate in the environmental study process by hiring their own consultant. Or putting up money quicker to get the consultant as long as it passes muster with the federal process. So trying to give private entities a little more leeway in how they perform the environmental study and how they get that going forward. Good morning, Mr. Richard. Thanks for joining us. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how this goes forward. As we all know, one of the things with Southside Junior High, waiting for FEMA to get back on, wetlands mitigation, environmental studies, all those sort of things, trying to streamline that process, trying to get these projects going quicker. Of course, they had hoped that Southside would be open next year for next school year, just like Denham Springs Elementary will. Not going to happen. It's going to be the 2022-2023 school year. So have pushed it back an entire school year, having to wait about 4 or 5 extra months on top of the roughly year and a half study that went down before being able to start construction on that building. So Congressman Graves trying to move things forward in terms of getting those studies done and out of the way so that construction can begin, so they don't continue to hold up these large infrastructure projects. The Comey Diversion Canal is another example of that. And just about anything that would come after this is another example of trying to get those things streamlined, because, as he said, we still want to do those studies. We still want the environmental scrutiny. We still want to know what's going on in that area and what we need to avoid and what we can fix, but we can do it in a much more expeditious manner. So keep an eye on that legislation. It's sort of in the beginning phases. If you want to watch him talk about it, we did share a live video to our Facebook page last night. You can go check that out at your leisure. Talking about COVID-19, and this is going to bring us into the school situation, 162,214 cases, 5,218 deaths, 2,205,935 tests. There are 145,570 have recovered. That number will be updated today. 571 hospitalized on 96 ventilators. In Livingston Parish, 3,726 cases, 74 deaths on 38,966 tests. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, school is happening today. There's an interesting back and forth going on between teachers and the school board and central office administration, we should say, and Superintendent Joe Murphy. Yesterday, Joe Murphy held a press conference and said that they would they understood what the teachers were saying. They knew that it was a frustrating time. School is still going to happen today. They are expecting to have enough people on campus to make sure that school continues for the day. The Livingston Federation of Teachers is who's sort of backing this. It's sort of a loose union, I guess you can call it. Roughly 350 members that are teachers are in this organization. Unsure of the total number who will be acting today, but roughly 350, that puts you right at about 15% of the total teacher population. We will see if more join them. They're currently, as we understand it, working this morning to decide exactly what they're going to do during the day. We, according to Mr. David Gray, our reporter, we didn't really have an idea yesterday. They're still in the planning phases of that. So we will find out today exactly what the Livingston Federation of Teachers and their membership plan to do on this forced sick day and day of action. Superintendent Joe Murphy addressed a lot of the issues that they had. One of them was with virtual school, which has been difficult for teachers all over the state. Some systems have handled it better than others. A lot of the teachers here have said that they did not have enough training for virtual school and to be prepared for that. They also don't have enough time during the day to be able to handle in-person students as well as virtual students. Moving into phase 3 has alleviated a lot of that. But one of the things the teacher said is that this goes beyond COVID, because virtual school is not going away. And Superintendent Joe Murphy was very clear about that. This goes beyond COVID because the teachers feel like they aren't heard by either the school board or the central office administration, especially with regard to something like this. Now, one of the things that Superintendent Joe Murphy did say was that the Start Strong Committee, which was formed to prepare for COVID-19 and going back to school amid this coronavirus pandemic, and it was a group of peers, mostly educators, selected by their peers to represent the teachers and administrators on this committee to try to get back to work. Teachers are saying that what they did wasn't good enough. The committee's saying it's more complicated than that. So there is back and forth there regarding that. Of course, the teachers want I guess you can say, superintendent advisory board to be formed, mostly of teachers with also some parent stakeholders and administrators. Superintendent Joe Murphy said he'd be willing to sit down and talk about that with the teachers, especially those who are vocal with concerns. However, the teachers also have brought up 2 other issues. One issue over the summer was that the teachers well, the entire school system is going to face a 5% increase for 2 years, or a 10% increase total in insurance premiums. That, of course, is one of the biggest expenses for the school system behind salaries. So it's going to be interesting to see how the school board can handle that financially. They also, these teachers have also put out pay raises. Of course, it's very difficult because the pay is determined by the budget, which is based on tax collection. So we're going to see how they're able to negotiate a lot of these things. It is a very contentious time between the local teachers and the school board. They are both going to have to do a lot of negotiating with each other. But of course, pay raises, especially across roughly 2,400 teachers, is going to be difficult to unilaterally manage. The last pay raise that occurred for teachers was actually passed down through the state and state mandated as well as state funded. So it's going to be interesting to see if the school board is going to be able to come up with more money. Of course, the last time the school board had an election was a renewal of a millage that funded administrative expenses, especially for assistants, kind of squeaked by. So, right now, especially amid COVID, new taxes are not really on the board. So it would take some creative financing on behalf of the school board to try to find money for raises for that many teachers. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly what happens in the coming days and the coming weeks. However, school is happening today, Wednesday, September 23rd. So please keep that in mind. Please remember, send your student to school. They are going to receive instruction today. Before we move on, do want to talk about these mitigation efforts real quick, because Louisiana is doing very well with COVID-19. Please remember, wash your hands for 20 seconds or more with soap and water. Wear a mask in public. It is a mandate. 6 feet or more of distance between yourself and others in public. Control your cough and sneezing with an elbow or a tissue, preferably your own elbow. Don't touch your face, my favorite one. 50 or less to a gathering, preferably less, and stay home if you're sick, and utilize telehealth to get in touch with your doctor. Want to remind folks, I-12 is moving, although very, very, very slow. Heavy delays starting at the 10-12 split, backed up all the way to O'Neill. That's causing on-ramp delays in Livingston Parish at 447 Juban and Range Avenues. Please keep that in mind. There's an accident on I-12 eastbound in between Walker and Satsuma. It's got that pretty much locked down. Recommend, if you haven't yet and you're going east, use 190 or 16 to the south. 64 is clear heading into Central with some heavier delays on Greenville Springs Road. It's currently 73 degrees. 82 degrees is your high today. 71 your overnight low. Rain hasn't been quite as bad as expected, but it is supposed to be on and off again today. We're not sure if it's going to move into tomorrow or not. We're going to be keeping an eye on the radar today to see exactly what happens, but do expect some thunderstorms throughout the day. One last time, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning for the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. Want to remind folks that we are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We have a podcast page, which is free, a coronavirus page, which is free, and a breaking news page, which is free as well, that has state, national news, as well as local accidents and local arrests, so you can check them out there. We do hope you have a great day. It is, of course, Wednesday, hump day. And please remember, send your kid to school. There will be someone there to educate them. And we will see you tomorrow morning.